The views and opinions of this podcast are of those of the host, the guests, and that's it. The views do not reflect family members, employment, or anything else. The Maincast podcast is an area where everyone can be themselves, honestly and truthfully. And we are also striving to make a space that is safe for anyone, despite whatever sex, gender, age, or ability may be. The Maincast podcast is a safe place for everyone to come, listen, laugh, enjoy, and share. Thank you very much.
Coming to you live from the greatest city in the world, Memphis, Tennessee. This is the Maincast podcast, presented by your host, Professor Christopher.
Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Settle in. Settle on in. You know, I've been podding for a minute, and when there's a topic or something that I specifically want to talk about, I usually just write it down, and then eventually I get to it. Maybe the day that I write it down, I'm able to get to it. Maybe 2 or 3 recording sessions. It might take me that long to actually get to that one specific topic. But there's one topic that I have been skipping over for a while. And now I'm just going to come on out and do this one. Because it keeps popping up and it keeps annoying me. So, what better time than now, while it's fresh on my mind, to just go on ahead and do it. Now you ask it, now what topic is this, big dog? What you talking about? Well, today I saw a video on Facebook. It was a Chris Rock video. And he was on stage swearing. He was saying something that was super profound and everything like that, right? So he says, the only people who are granted, well, I'm paraphrasing at this point, but the only people who are given unconditional love are women, children, and pets, or dogs specifically. Women, children, and dogs. And men are left out in the cold. As far as unconditional love is concerned, they're left out in the cold unless they are providing something. Right? This is a common trope now on the internet that men are agreeing with. It's remixed in several different ways. Women don't love men without them being able to provide some kind of whatever. All it comes down to is, if I am a man and I am not producing something for someone, then I will not be loved unconditionally. Well, ladies and gentlemen, fine listeners of this amazing podcast, let me tell you that there is absolutely no such thing as unconditional love for anybody. Anybody. There's no such thing as unconditional love for anybody. Men, women, children, and dogs. Well, pets. We'll just say pets too. There's no such thing as unconditional love from person to person or from person to animal. Unless we're talking about deities that people pray to or people believe in. You know, we looking at you, big Jesus. Like, if it's not Jesus or if it's not whatever, whoever your belief system is lined up for you to, to pray to or to worship or whatever, you're not getting unconditional love from anybody but them. So let's just start there. So if it's not a deity, then you could just forget. You just forget anything about unconditional love, right? It's like there's a joke on the internet where people say when they finally learn a word, they can't let it go. And I think unconditional may be one of those words where people are just saying it because it sounds proper within the context of the sentence. But I don't think people are thinking about this the right way. I really don't. I mean, everybody has their own opinions and thoughts and things of that nature, but at some points, you just gotta be like, nah, bro, I don't necessarily think that that's it. You're close, but it ain't it. Like I was saying, there is no such thing as unconditional love. Now, there is a concept of love that exists, where you're giving your all and you're expecting someone to give their all back to you, right? And it is also a thing that is taught in religion sometimes. And that word is agape. That is pretty much the fatherly love of God for humans, as well as the human reciprocal love for God. So basically, you're loving everything in the way that I just said that Jesus loves us. If you are a Christian, it's the way that Jesus provides his tender love and care for us, no matter what it is that we do. They say he died for our sins, correct? Whose sins are you dying for in 2022? Nobody. Tell you that now. I mean, you love your family, right? But you're not dying for their sins. You may die protecting them. But then, I mean, that's the most extreme case that anybody could think of, in which, the love for your family will exceed the love of anything else. But even then, that's due to conditions as well. What conditions, I don't know. But, if you get there, you get there. You don't. But here's one of the things that I figure, because there's such a big outcry now for what it is that's called unconditional love for men. I think what's happening is there was once a point in time where appreciation was shown, and now men are asking for the verbal appreciation. At this point, just gas me up, give me a thank you or some compliments, or sit me aside and let me know that my efforts are greatly appreciated, something like that. But what it used to be, appreciation may not have been as verbalized as maybe it should have been, but it was verbalized via actions. And I say it, and I got it written down in my notes, aka the Big Piece of Chicken Project. And what I mean by that is the ultimate way to show respect and appreciation for the man of the house who's getting up, going to work every single day, no matter what, rain, sleet, snow, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, heat waves, extreme cold, anything and everything. This brother is getting up every day to go to work, to provide for his family. And when it came down to chicken night, what happened? Save your daddy the big piece of chicken. And you wouldn't dare eat that big piece of chicken, because eating that big piece of chicken was symbolic of respect. And you eating that piece of chicken when your mama told you not to was an act of disrespect. And that's what I mean by, appreciation. It's more or less needing to be heard at this point than shown. And it can be extremely misconstrued. I mean, even today, right? Let's just say you gave your lady a couple $100 for the house. Physical appreciation would mean that she would take those couple of $100 and invest it into the household. Maybe buying paper towels, paper plates, Febreze air fresheners, things that the house actually needs. A plunger, an extra plunger, some mopping glow, an extra mop, what do they call it, Swiffer, something to put into the house. An act of disrespect would be for her to take money that was expected to be turned into something conducive for the house, and instead she got her nails done, or she bought some sweaters that no one needed, or or she went to Starbucks instead, right? She didn't respect that you were getting up every day, no matter what, to go to work, to provide funds to keep the house afloat. Nope, she just went on and did her own thing. She knew that the money was not hers as far as spending it on whatever. She knew that it was expected that if I give you this money, I need you to go turn it into something for the house. And on the same tip, an act of appreciation, you gave her the money for the bills. Light bill, cable, cell phone, mortgage, cars, insurance, whatever. And she takes this money and in return pays the bills on time. If you pay them a little late or something or whatever, because payday fell funny or whatever, cool, right? But let's just say in a perfect world, you had the money for the bills before the due date. An act of appreciation would mean that she would have them paid on time. An act of disrespect and unappreciativeness would be that she more than likely held on to the money until everything was past due, and now you have to work harder for the next go around because now you have accumulated late fees, right? No, like I said, I don't think people are thinking too greatly about what it is, what this thing that they're asking for. I don't think that they know exactly what's going on, because they are listening to these videos with these tidbits, and they're getting lost in it. They're getting lost in the message, but in turn they're actually getting what they feel like. Yeah, you're actually getting everything that you're asking for, but you really haven't brainstormed enough to understand that you are getting what you're supposed to be getting. It's the difference. I'm assuming nowadays, just for esteem and just to keep going, positive reinforcement. I would say, generation really doesn't believe in positive reinforcement because for whatever reason, just like in another Chris Rock video, this man said that you're not supposed to applaud a fish for swimming, which basically means you're not supposed to applaud people for doing things that they're supposed to be doing, such as taking care of the kids, cooking dinner, helping them with their homework, blase, blase, blase. And that's not true. That has never, ever been true. That might have been true when he was growing up. However, now with the push of mental health and how to to keep yourself out of the gutter of poor mental health, there's ways around it. There's verbal confirmations and of course, like I said, the physical confirmations of loving someone, right? In their contributions. Like, I understand, you can't always reward people for doing well. However, a compliment here or there, aka positive reinforcement, could be the difference between a person giving up completely and a person tightening their bootstraps and continuing on through whatever trials and tribulations that they have. For example, if you see a woman and she has multiple jobs, she may or may not have a man in the house, but she's doing everything that she can for her children. She doesn't miss sporting events, recitals, anything of that nature. This woman is run down. She is tired. And it feels like every time she gets ahead, maybe, just maybe, something's going to happen that makes her feel like she's taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back all the time. She's on the verge of depression and just letting it all go, right? And then what happens? Happy Mother's Day. She's getting gifts and she's getting the confirmation that her kids understand everything that she is doing. Everything that she's doing for the household and for them. They recognize how tired she is. And they recognize that on some days, some days are better than others. So they've gone all out for Mother's Day. Gifts, cards, money, breakfast in bed, maybe a pedicure, manicure, whatever, right? Because it's Mother's Day. Imagine, follow along with me. Imagine if her children skipped Mother's Day after all of the pain and sacrifice. Getting up for work when she didn't feel like it. Staying up for little Jimmy's basketball game, especially when he hit that game winner, right? Imagine you do all that work. Mother's Day comes and it goes and you get nothing. Imagine how livid you would be. Mother's Day is nothing but a day of positive reinforcement. Father's Day should be the same. Tit for tat, right? Because fathers tend to do the same things that mothers do, but just differently. Right? I'm just saying, we can go with that. So now I have questions. Because they say it, like I said, unconditional love only exists for women, children, and dogs. We'll just put pets in parentheses. Right? This is where we're at. This is what we are discussing. But if there was unconditional love, if unconditional love exists, then why? Why is there divorce? If I'm supposed to love that, okay, I've been to several weddings, and the theme is always constant until death does us part. They do the sickness and wealth and all that, sickness and health, all that jazz, right? But until death does us part. Not once have I heard until death does us part, or we mutually decide that this marriage is not a good idea anymore. Never heard it. Never heard it. Never heard it. So if there was unconditional love, where you were supposed to marry and love a person until the day that you die, then why are people getting divorces? Why does divorce exist? Why can't I go to school and become a divorce lawyer or a family attorney or something like that? Why is that a thing if unconditional love exists? Why? If that was the case, that wouldn't be a thing. I would have to put up. If I was that kind of person, I would have to put up with my spouse gaining crazy weight, right? No, this isn't my struggle or anything like that. I'm not weight shaming or anything like that. But that's hey, as fickle as marriage is nowadays, gaining a little weight can basically end up being a reason for a person to want to dissolve their marriage because you aren't the same person that they married. But you're just 25 to 35 pounds heavier. She's been burning the biscuits for 6 months. And every time she does it, she pisses you off, right? Now you want to leave because you thought that she could at least cook biscuits, bake the biscuits, whatever, right? Or she leaves a ring in the tub, or she farts in her sleep too much. Her hair sheds everywhere. All of these annoyances could be a reason why a brother would want to leave. Petty, yes, but they could be a reason why. But if there was unconditional love, that would not bother him. He would embrace these things. You gain a little weight, cool. What you want to do about it? You want to keep it or you want to lose it? Come on, babe. Let's come up with a plan. Hey, your hair consistently sheds all over the place. Let's get you this scarf. Let's get you a bonnet. Perhaps we need to go to some sort of doctor to see why your hair is doing this. Or maybe there's some other way that we could keep you from shedding like a German Shepherd. Hey, babe, I've noticed that every time you try to bake the biscuits, you burn them. Now, I'm no expert myself, but I can do a mighty fine biscuit. Do you mind showing me what you do when you put the biscuits in the oven? We can correct this together, right? That's what unconditional love would tell you to do. It wouldn't tell you, damn, bruh, she can't do nothing. Cheat on this bitch, bruh. It wouldn't, no, that would not be happening. That would not be a thing. And I also ask, if unconditional love exists, then why are there so many children who are still in foster care? Why are there so many children that are homeless? Why is it a problem to help children in need? They get unconditional love, right? So that means if they did, they would not have to suffer through these things. There are children who are going to consistently age out of the foster care with no additional resources or anything like that. And why? Well, primarily because maybe the child's placements weren't always up to par. Maybe they ran a few times. Maybe they didn't get along with a couple of families, right? But if there was unconditional love for that particular child, they would have found a way to make it work, right? Because we're talking about unconditional love. Or maybe that child's profile and background is just way too much for an adopted family to take on. If there was such things as unconditional love, that would not matter. It would not matter if this child's father was unknown and the mother was drug addicted and they found the child in the bath in a garbage can or something like that. A story like that may just be too much for an adopted family to take on. We want something lighter. We want something easier to maintain. We're not trying to adopt a kid with that much baggage. Right? But unconditional love exists for children, right? They wouldn't be in foster care to begin with if that was a thing. Well, for the most part, anyway. Why are so many children homeless? Right? I mean, the same thing can go into the foster care system. People love children so much. They would not struggle with homelessness and hunger. Now, for the most part, the people that you see, the panhandlers that you see, are mostly adults, right? The only redeeming thing about being a homeless child is that you have some sort of reprieve. You can go to the library. You can go to, you can go to school. There's places that you could go for a couple of hours to at least be sheltered in some sort of way. It just gets hard when these things close. Where do you sleep? Where do you go? Right? And if unconditional love actually existed, then why is it a problem finding resources for children? Making sure that there's funding there within your own individual state to make sure that the children in need will always have some sort of resources on hand. It's not true. There's especially if you need mental and behavioral health. Some states are just plumb out of luck as far as what they're able to provide for the children, males and females, especially with females. But we'll cover that in just a little bit of time, right? But these are the recipients of unconditional love, correct? But I just gave you a couple of problems off the top of my head that I know that children go through, right? But the love is unconditional. These aren't just your children, these are children, period. They're not making distinctions. They're saying that children are recipients of unconditional love, and that is not true. There's children getting their blocks knocked off right now as we speak by someone who is supposed to love and care for them, right? In an abusive way, putting them in danger is not a loving environment. It's not conducive of love. That is pain. That is torture. That is something that a child should not have to go through. But there's people who are so strung out on having the struggle Olympics that they're forgetting what children go through, what women go through, and hell, what animals typically can go through at times. All because of how they are misunderstanding how their efforts are being appreciated and interpreted, right? So I also ask you, if unconditional love exists for women, and why are so many of them getting beaten and battered? Now, I'm talking legitimately beaten and battered. Like, they're not the aggressor or anything. They've done nothing, right? Now, I know that on TV or whatever you may see, the self-defense and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about women who they could just be walking through the house. Old boy comes home from some kind of traumatic episode. He might have got fired from work. He could have, been at the bar drinking and got into a fight there. Still riled up and drunk, and comes home and, he serves up a couple of black eyes. This is the woman that you're supposed to love, right? She's getting beaten and battered. She's getting abused. She's not being loved the way that she's supposed to, because you're putting your foot in her guts every time she does something wrong. Every time you feel she's talking back to you when all she was doing was asking a simple question or making an easy request. Mike, pick your boots up. I've been cleaning the house all day. Please, don't do this. Could you please not leave your underwear all over the place? Could you please do this, or could you please do that? And then, here comes the abuse, right? Unconditional love, eh? And these same women are ending up in women's shelters just because they can't survive within the home without getting a fist put through their nose every time something goes wrong or he has the urge to do so. Battery and abuse. There's no way that you're saying that there's unconditional love, because unconditional love would keep you from abusing your spouse, because you wouldn't want to see them in pain. You wouldn't want to see them bloodied, injured, or anything like that, but yet that's not what is going on. Spousal abuse. There's is women being killed by their husbands all the time for nothing. There's women being harassed on the streets and killed for turning down phone numbers, right? And advances. There's women that are having their bodies took by, some pervert, who gets his rocks off while a woman is yelling and screaming and pleading for her life. But there's unconditional love for women, though. And these aren't extreme cases. These are cases that happen all the time. We're not talking about just loving the person in your homes. We're talking about loving people all together. They're saying a godly love. They didn't say a godly love for the people in your home. It was a godly love for people who are surrounding you. This is what unconditional love basically is mocking, right? Or emulating. I'll say that. Not mocking, but emulating. This is where we are, right? If unconditional love exists for women, it would be extremely easy for them to find mental and behavioral health care. Just like children, they also have issues with finding these resources. Why? Because typically what happens if a woman is looking for a diagnosis, especially when she is a young child. Well, that's just the nature of women. We can't identify any kind of mental or behavioral health diagnosis right now for her until she gets a little older. They don't do that for young boys. They're able to identify something like that for young boys. Typically, it takes longer for them to identify what could potentially be mentally and behaviorally wrong with females. Because of some deep down ideology that women's hormones make them do things that may register as unstable mentally and behaviorally, right? And you don't know if she's actually able to be diagnosed something until she gets a little bit older, unless it's just 100,000% obvious, right? But this baby needs help. This woman needs help now. Unconditional love will say, hey, well, come on in. I understand the stereotypes that you go through when they're trying to figure out what mental and behavioral health issues that you may have. But let's try to figure something out for you anyway, against what everyone will probably have to say. Let's get this figured out for you, because you deserve to live a life that is equal to your peers, right? Equal to your peers who may not broadcast if they have the same struggles or not, right? And like I said, these are just ideas of struggles and things that women shouldn't have or children shouldn't have if unconditional love actually exists. Because if there was love enough from people in the world, then they wouldn't have these struggles. Like, men are complaining about not being appreciated for paying the light bill or being able to help get junior some cleats for sports, or have a little residual income so that mom can, get some Starbucks or get her nails done or get her eyebrows threaded or waxed or whatever it is, You're crying about that, right? And at the same time, they're ignoring the struggles of others because they're not feeling appreciated. It's a little bit arrogant. It's a little unfair. And if we want to do better, we have to acknowledge that everybody is struggling. There's no specific struggle that precedes another, right? A struggle is a struggle. And I have another set of questions. If unconditional love for pets and animals actually existed, why are so many animals abused? You know, these pets are supposed to basically be humans' best friends, right? We're talking about, we're not talking about like fish necessarily, but we're talking about dogs and cats. Let's just keep it there, dogs and cats. Chris Rock said dogs, but we'll include cats too. But these animals are abused. The way that people say this, animals are just given everything. You're never going to find a case where animals are given less than at all. And the same is going to go for how they view women and children. You'll never find a case, in their eyes, you'll never find a case of them having to suffer or have wrongdoings put upon them, right? And if unconditional love actually exists, then why are pounds overrun with the unlovable, unadoptable animals who are eventually going to end up euthanized, right? Unconditional love will say, hey, this pit bull's a little aggressive and is missing an eyeball. However, I understand that this particular pit bull was bred for fighting. They have clipped this baby's ears. The tail, I don't know where it's at. The rest of it. I will take this pet into my home, train it up, and love it the best that I can until death does us part. Now you see videos on the internet where people do just that, right? But those are like the small percentage issues, right? Because again, like I stated earlier, the internet is really good with blowing up small percentile issues in situations. But on the whole scale, this is not happening for pets who are deemed unlovable and they're not meeting a certain aesthetic for a family, right? You can go on like the website for like the Memphis Animal Society or whatever they call it right now. And you'll see all kinds of pets. They may be got a little age on them. They may have a couple of issues on them. Unconditional love will say, hey, I don't care how old this dog is. I don't care if this dog looks like they've been in the dryer because it's as fuzzy as they are. I don't care that this dog has, stage 4 stomach cancer or something like that. I'm going to take on this dog anyway. Because unconditional love would say we will forget all of that. But no, that's not what happens. They get to petting around with the dog or whatever. And they ask the attendant, like, well, what's the history with this one? Well, this is Fido. And, he was a stray. He's been neutered. He also, he has, a muscle issue in which his body just shuts down and he just falls out sometimes. And then you're like, oh, he's a nice dog, but no, thank you. Unconditional love will say, well, oh, okay, he has a muscular issue that causes him to fall out and lose control of his body. I'm gonna bring this dog into my home anyway, and I'm gonna make sure that we have everything that this dog needs. Even if we have to, get a little red wagon to carry around when we take this dog out to the park or something like that. We're gonna make this happen. But that doesn't happen because you're not meeting the aesthetic, and you're not really meeting any condition that a family would want to take on a pet that that they haven't seen be breeded. Because they say don't shop and don't breed. Like, they're not gonna take that chance. They would rather find the pet with the least amount of issues and the pet that fits the aesthetic for those family photos the best. But unconditional love, right? This is where we are. Just ignore everybody else's struggle because somebody didn't acknowledge that you paid for a year's worth of Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus or something like that, right? This is where we at. We're struggling to understand everyone else's plight because we feel unappreciated. But you're not being unappreciated. You just aren't being. I don't know. I guess you just not getting what you're not. It's not giving what it's supposed to give. I guess, as far as what you're expecting and what you're getting. I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. But I know that we more than likely shouldn't be so quick to complain. Or so quick for some millionaire comedian to tell you that your life isn't really going the way that it's supposed to be as a man because somebody isn't, constantly thanking you and groveling at your feet 24 hours a day just because you paid the remaining balance on the layaway out of Walmart. Check this out, because if you actually love me with that unconditional care, that agape that I told you about a while back, right? I mean, you can even look it up. Agape, unconditional love. You do me that same way, and I do you that same way, right? There is nothing that you could do wrong to me that would ever change the way that I would feel about you. Nothing. But I know that doesn't exist. The thing that people aren't really confessing is their love is conditional. More or less, it's transactional. Right? I'll love you if you do this, and this for me. Right? That's what I feel transactional love is, right? You have to do something for me, and in return, I'll give you a little bit of love. That's not where you want to be. I don't think that's where anyone wants to be, but that's where a lot of people are. Because despite what they're seeing, their esteem is saying, well, hey, I got a piece of somebody. I'm not going to let it go with Jesus. I am tired. I am so tired of having to do all of this just to get a little shred of love. Right? I think a lot of us would love to be in the unconditional thing, but it's just really unrealistic. Most people would probably enjoy being in a conditional type of deal, right? Conditionally, it gives you, a little leeway to make mistakes, to learn and to grow, right? However, if something really egregious were to happen, you clearly at this point breaking the conditions that would keep you contracted to stay, right? I'm talking, abuse, attempted murder, poisoning, try to run somebody over with a car. You just can't get your differences out of the way. Conditional. It's conditions, right? For the most part, people have mutual agreements on what conditions work best for them. This is why divorce court exists, because once those conditions are not met anymore, and things go from conditional to transactional, oh no, it's about to be over. This isn't what I signed up for. Now, me, myself, I know I'm working in the conditional. I don't do transactional. Nope. It's the quickest way to get used for everything that you got, right? No. Conditional. And I would expect that people would treat me the same. If one of my best friends were to haul off and start beating women and abusing drugs, you have voided a condition in which our friendship will be conducive. Will we try to get you some help? Yes. At that point, our friendship can be salvaged. If you are refusing to seek help or any treatment for the drugs, then my brother, there's really nothing else that we can do. Abuse of your spouse, something that we're not going to tolerate. Neglect of your children, we're not going to tolerate that either. You have voided a condition of friendship. I cannot be friends with you. I cannot associate with you. Because you're smacking women around and you don't see your kids. Can't do it. And I would expect people to treat me the same way. I would expect to be treated the same way. We're all meeting conditions. And just for the hell of it, most people are successfully maintaining these conditions. And only to the point, like I just stated, when they become transactional only, then you're in trouble. Then something needs to happen. A separation, perhaps. I'm not advising anybody to get a divorce or anything like that, but I'm also just saying, just take a look at where you are. If the only time that you're getting love and admiration is when you're doing things, then you might need to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out when you decided that you was going to let that happen. All right? Don't blame the other person first. What did you do? Or what didn't you do to stop this? But I could go on and on about this. We can have a conversation about it. Or you could just listen to let this die. But hopefully we could get this going to where more men are able to think. No one is receiving love unconditionally out here. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself for having these for instigating the struggle Olympics like you do. Especially if your family is showing you appreciation, even if it's a way that you didn't necessarily agree to, but you never had the conversation on what appreciation looks like to you. Most things can be done and changed with a simple conversation. Well, all parties are able to listen and not talk over each other. Understand my point of view. Find the disconnect and improve. Can we do that? Now, I know you're wondering, dang, man, how is he able to do this podcast stuff like he's doing it? He's got it everywhere. Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Now, hear me out. Let me explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Now download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Again, you can either download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you for listening to the Maincast podcast. One of Good Pod's favorite podcasts. Hopefully, it's one of your new favorites as well. Now remember, please give this podcast your subscription. Please give this podcast a rating. Please give this podcast comments. The more activity that you guys do, the better it is for this podcast to potentially move up in algorithms and potentially be listed on your favorite avenues such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeart, and more. Again, I would like to thank you all for listening to this podcast and have a good rest of your day.